Chapter 15. The Right Thing to Do. Lunar date 3.1625.5.32. 3 hours and 33 minutes after dayrise. Tallon, leave me alone! Daniel shouted before throwing one of the pillows at the door. You promised we'd spend the day together! His younger brother whined. Tallon had been pounding on Daniel's closed door for the better part of the past 10 minutes. Yeah, well, I stayed up late last night and I'm tired. We can hang out tomorrow. Daniel laid back down. That's what you said yesterday! And the day before that! Tallon's whining became mixed with anger. Daniel was becoming irritated. Don't you have any other friends you can bug? I've been with my friends all summer. This is the only time we get to spend together and we haven't yet. You told me this summer was going to be awesome. Daniel groaned. His body was yearning for sleep. His eyes were heavy and his legs felt like bricks. I'm not really interested in doing childish things, Tallon. You'll understand when you're older. You've been a real coda this summer, Daniel. If by being older it means acting like you, I want to stay a kid. His younger brother's feet finally stomped off. Finally, he breathed out and rolled over to lay on his stomach. Daniel's summer was going great, at least from his perspective. Comey's suggestion to not be exclusive was the best decision for Daniel. Besides Comey, he spent the summer with Cassia, the older girl he met after his first date with Comey, and another girl named Nell. The reason why he was so tired each day was his dating life. 2 nights ago, he was with Cassia. The previous night, he was on a second date with Nell. As far as Daniel knew, his parents were still in the dark about his extracurricular activities. Even if they did know, it wasn't like he was doing anything wrong. He wasn't crossing any sexual lines he didn't intend to cross until after marriage. At least not yet, although he came close a few times with both Cassia and Comey. Why do I keep making excuses? I'm not even sure I want to be married anymore, so why wait? Might as well enjoy the fun while it lasts. I'm supposed to meet up with Nell tomorrow night. Things may get a little heated if that video she sent earlier was any indication. Maybe this time I should just let it. Daniel wasn't stupid. He knew the attention he was receiving was connected to his boldness against Nolan at the prep tournament. Eventually, it would all blow over. Unless I managed to up my prestige somehow. While he was removed from the Shadow Gryphons, Daniel still planned to go to the Solar Faceoff World Championship. There was a chance he could fill in as a sub for another team if a roster spot opened up. And if he managed to do that, he'd make Emilyn and Joseph pay for casting him out. Despite seeing his old friends at different gatherings of the Followers of the Way over the summer, they hadn't spoken. Typically, he stayed to himself and counted down the time he had left before he'd get away to go meet up with Comey or Cassia. A couple of days earlier, his parents asked him if he was planning to go back to school with Emilyn and Joseph. Apparently, they were leaving early. Today, actually. For what purpose? He didn't know. Daniel didn't care either. He wasn't looking forward to going back to the academy. At least Nell attends the Artanikst Academy. Maybe I can find some other girls to replace Comey and Cassia. Might as well have an entertaining final semester before I'm off to travel the world and teach. Daniel's door slid open. For crying out loud, I said go get out of bed, Daniel. Thomas Sheppard's voice was firm. Dad? Daniel sat up straight. Thomas picked up a pair of shorts draped over the back of a chair and threw them to Daniel. Get dressed. Your mother and I want to speak with you. Can it wait? Daniel groaned, laying back down and burying his head in the rest of his pillows. Now, Daniel. His father's steadfast patience was wearing thin. Meet us out in the garden. But, the stern gaze silenced Daniel. Not another word. Thomas left and Daniel rolled out of bed. Tallon probably went and complained. What a little brat. Sometimes he really boils my bananas. He slipped on his shorts, ran some water from his sink, and rinsed his hair before donning a shirt. He sauntered down the stairs and headed to the garden. When his parents first designed their house, they did so with the intent of eventually planting a massive garden. In the shape of a square, the house was built with 2 levels of rooms and an open area in the middle where his parents planted the garden nearly 15 years earlier. 2 doorways on ground level led to the garden. Daniel took the one through the kitchen. Various flowers, bushes, and trees of a multitude of colors and smells decorated the garden. Daniel inhaled the fresh air as he walked towards the center of the sanctuary. His father was pacing back and forth along the cobblestone path while his mother sat gracefully on the stone bench. Daniel stood and waited for his parents to speak. Only silence followed for 30 seconds. "Is anyone going to talk?" "Who are you, and what have you done with our son?" Clara asked him point blank. "What?" Daniel asked in confusion. "You've been acting differently ever since your little stunt at the prep tournament," his mother continued. "We thought it was a phase, so we left you alone. And then it kept continuing. We know you haven't spoken to Emmy or Seth all summer, and you're ignoring your brother." "Your room is a mess," Tomas added. "You're sneaking out on a regular basis. You aren't involved in the discussion with the other followers. So do you want to tell us what is wrong, or should we tell you?" "Nothing is wrong." Daniel tried to sound sincere, making eye contact with both his parents. "I've come to realize that the life I was living was a boring existence. I wanted something more exciting, and I found it." He crossed his arms as if to make a point. "No, Daniel," Tomas shook his head. "That is only a lie you are telling yourself. You're hiding from something." The words nearly stopped his heart. "Or someone," Clara said. "Abigale." Instantly his walls lit up. "How do they know? How do they always know? No. I am done here. I don't want to talk about Abigale." He turned to go. "Candy," Tomas commanded. "Lock the garden doors. Authorization Thomas 1. "Doors locked, Tomas." "What are you doing?" Daniel demanded. "You can't keep me locked in here against my will." "We are your parents," Clara replied sternly. "You may not approve of our methods, and that's fine. One day when you have children of your own, you will understand." Her voice shifted with empathy. "We recognize your desire to run away, Daniel. To pretend like everything is all right. We know it isn't. We can see it in your eyes and hear it in your voice. And sense it in your heart," Tomas added softly. He hated how his parents seemed to be on the same wavelength. 2 against 1 wasn't fair. "I told you, everything is fine." He turned his face away, trying to hide his lies. "You are being deceived by Trufon, my son," Tomas said. "We've both been there." "Yeah, right," he scoffed, turning back to his parents. "What do you know about what I'm going through?" He said it before realizing he was admitting his parents were right. Tomas took a seat beside Clara and offered his hand to the empty space beside him. "Daniel, come sit with us." Reluctantly, he took the spot next to his father. "When I was younger, your grandfather told me that one day I'd have a son just like me." Daniel rolled his eyes. "I get it. I'm not like you, Dad. Tallon is. Thanks." Tomas placed his right hand on his son's left shoulder. "Tallon may have the same academic strengths as me, but his personality is more like Clara's. Yours is more like mine. At least when I was your age." "What do you mean?" Daniel looked over at his father. "One of Arnion's proclamations states how we should give honor to others before ourselves," Clara answered. "When I first met your father, he didn't have a clear understanding of what that meant. And to be honest, neither did I. We had to learn it together." "I believe that honoring someone was synonymous with being nice to them," Tomas relayed. "And being nice meant not disagreeing with them, even if inside I truly did." Daniel hated how accurate his father's statement was to his life. "Did you believe that too, Mom?" "Basically," she agreed, focusing her gaze on Daniel. "There were times your father did something and I remained silent because I thought I was being nice and honoring him, even though his actions had unintentionally hurt me. And he did the same with me. This led to resentment growing up inside both of us until we exploded in a gigantic fight." "This was before you were born," Tomas added. "We were actually at my parents' house when it happened. They noticed what was going on and sat us down, kind of like we're sitting down with you. And we both hated it, at least at first. As I imagine you are hating this." Clara smiled at her son. Daniel felt the walls around his heart start to crumble. "I did. Now I'm not so sure. What did Papa and Nana tell you?" "They explained how honoring someone is about being nice to them," Tomas replied, his arm still resting on his son's shoulder. "Though that is part of it. Honoring someone is about being open and honest with them. They were honoring us by calling us out on what we were doing wrong." Clara continued as if his parents' brains were on the same wavelength. "Some days I feel like they have a telepathic connection."
They also pointed out how we were actually dishonoring each other by not being open with one another. All this time I thought I was honoring Abigail, when in reality I was dishonoring her. She was right. The thought began to open up the vault where he had locked his emotions. Despite knowing the truth in his parents' words, Daniel kept fighting to keep his walls up. As he did, he remained silent. We don't know everything that happened between Abigail and you, Daniel, Tomas admitted. But we recognize the attitude you had is the same one we used to have. As your parents, we believe we have done a good job illustrating true honor for you and your brother. However, it appears we have not been as proactive as we thought. Daniel broke his silence. What? He was taken back by their admission. No, you haven't been bad parents at all. He didn't want his parents to blame themselves for his struggles. It's not about being a good or bad parent, Daniel, Tomas corrected gently. When you have children, I'm sure you will have a better appreciation for the unique dynamics of parenting. We carry the tension of whether we have done too much or too little. We never truly know where we stand until our children grow and leave home. Your father and I have taught you many things over the years. Who you are today is because of those teachings. We didn't always do it perfectly, and we messed up from time to time. We don't think of ourselves as failures. His mother gave a half smile. Well, at least not right now, Tomas interrupted with a short chuckle. There are many nights where we both thought we failed, Tallon and you. Again, something you will understand when you become a parent, his mother added. Daniel rummaged through his thoughts before speaking. Part of him wanted to keep his secrets to himself, while the other side wanted to break down and tell his parents everything. I'm afraid if I tell you what I'm struggling with, you will no longer be proud of me. His words choked in his throat, and he held back his tears. Tomas hugged Daniel closer. Clara came over and knelt in front of him, taking both of his hands in hers. Daniel could no longer hold back the tears. He started to cry. One more thing you will learn as a parent, my son, is that your capacity for grace and mercy is multiplied. Daniel sensed his father's voice wavering with emotion. We may not always agree with your actions, but our love for you will never fade. Our pride isn't connected to what you do or accomplish. Our pride is based on one fact. You are our son. Yeah, but what if I did something that totally spit in your face? Daniel's voice was hoarse from his tears. What if I rejected Arnion and tried to live my own life? You are still our son, Clara reassured him. He closed his eyes, trying to force the tears to stop rolling down his cheeks. Yeah, but... His voice cracked. You are still our son, Tomas repeated. I know you say that, but... Both parents spoke in unison. Daniel, you are still our son. Daniel, you are still our son. The final pieces of the wall broke. Daniel's crying became uncontrollable. He found it hard to breathe. The pain, though excruciating, brought relief to his soul. For the first time in nearly 2 months, he started to feel normal. I'm sorry, Daniel sobbed and stumbled over his words. I'm sorry for the way I've acted all summer towards you and Tallon. I'm sorry for the person I let myself become. Tomas and Clara embraced their son. Tell us everything, Daniel, Clara said. What led you here? What story have you been telling yourself? And so, he told them everything. He told them about having a secret crush on Abigail before meeting her and how Dorn was a coda. He shared how he tried to honor her by being nice, how they grew closer, but her parents pressured her into being with Dorn because of prestige. Instead of being open and honest with her, he told her what he thought would least shake up their friendship. Then there was the kiss, the fight, the fallout with Emmy and Seth, his stunt at the prep tournament, the shift in attitude towards his family and friends, and his lack of honor in his dating life. And all during this time, I haven't heard from Arnion. I tried to explain it away, but I know the real reason. My relationship with Arnion was disrupted, and I can no longer hear Arnion's voice. He looked directly at his parents. I'm at a loss, Mom and Dad. What am I to do? His voice sounded hoarse after all his crying and talking. His parents remained quiet as they soaked in all the information. Clara was the first to speak. You are not the first to struggle with your identity as a young person, nor will you be the last. We all go through it. Our journeys may be different, but the struggle is real. Don't hold that against yourself. She grabbed his hands again. Give yourself grace and forgive yourself. You may not see the importance of that, but trust me, it is important. She paused. You can ask others for forgiveness, but if you don't forgive yourself, you will never be free of it. Daniel nodded. I was going to wait until you graduated, but I believe now is a more opportune time. Jack and Carter, my grandfather, started the tradition of praying a specific prayer over our children. On the day they leave home, we prayed over them one final time. If you don't mind, I want to say that prayer over you now, Daniel. This was news to Daniel. I never heard anything about this. That's the whole point. His mother smiled and squeezed both of his hands as she began to pray. Build me a son, almighty Arnion, who will be strong enough to know when he is weak, and brave enough to face himself when he is afraid. One who will be proud and unbending in honest defeat, and humble and gentle in victory. Build me a son whose wishes will not take the place of deeds, a son who will know you, and that to himself is the foundation stone of knowledge. Lead him, I pray, not in the path of ease and comfort, but under the stress and spur of difficulties and challenge. Here let him learn to stand up in the storm. Here let him learn compassion for those who fail. Build me a son whose heart will be clear, whose goal will be high, a son who will master himself before he seeks to master others, one who will reach into the future, yet not forget the past. And after all these things are his, add, I pray, enough of a sense of humor so that he may always be serious, yet never take himself too seriously. Give him humility, so that he may always remember the simplicity of true greatness, the open mind of true wisdom, and the meekness of true strength. Then I, as a mother, will dare to whisper, I have not lived in vain. Wow. Thank you, Mom. Daniel pulled his mom close. You've prayed that over me before? She hugged him back. At least once a week your whole life. And when you have children, you can pray it over them as well. Daniel wondered if that day would ever come. One more thing, Tomas said, hugging his son one more time. Your mother and I do not hold any harsh feelings towards Abigale. You shouldn't either. Prestige and the pressure it brings is a messy business. Tomas took Clara's hand in his and stood up. I believe this is all we should say on the matter for now. Confusion shook Daniel. What do you mean? We could tell you how you should make amends with everyone, at the very least give our perspective. However, we're limited in our knowledge and resources. We suggest you go to one who isn't. Realization struck Daniel. Arnion. Yes, Clara replied. Restore your relationship with Arnion, and your path ahead will be clear. You will know the right thing to do. Arnion will give your story clarification, and then, afterwards, you can come talk to us if you wish. Daniel knew the words his parents were speaking were true. Do you mind giving me some alone time here in the garden? Absolutely. Tomas gave Daniel a long hug and kissed his cheek. I love you, Daniel. I love you too, Dad. As soon as Tomas let go, Clara wrapped her arms around Daniel. We are always in your corner, Daniel. I love you. Love you too, Mom. Tomas and Clara commanded Candy to unlock the doors, and they went back into the house. Besides the noise of the bugs and birds flying around, the garden was filled with silence. Daniel was nervous. He wasn't sure where to begin. Arnion, I'm sorry for not coming to you sooner. I'm sorry for letting myself get caught up in everything going on around me. I don't know if you will choose to speak to me or not. I know I don't deserve it after betraying you and your teachings. I... Overwhelmed by his pain, grief, and brokenness, Daniel knelt on the ground and started to sob uncontrollably again. He couldn't form any words to speak. Instead, he cried and tried to think what he wanted to say. I've let everyone down. I feel like I failed everyone, including you. How can I tell people to follow you if I don't even do it myself? I alienated myself from my two best friends, and Abigale will never want to follow you because she will associate you with me. And I can't bear that, Arnion. I can't. I feel so beaten up and weighed down by everything. I feel so abandoned, even though it is I who abandoned you. I know I don't deserve it, but please forgive me. Forgive me for my deceit and my dishonor. Forgive me for my pride to think that I could do what I wanted without any consequences. Forgive me for being unreliable to my friends. Forgive me for not being a good friend to Abigale. She was right. Deep down, I wanted her to change. I thought she wasn't good enough until she did follow you. And that was wrong of me in so many different ways. I know I can't go back to the way I was. I'm different now. I just ask you to take me as I am now and continue to help me grow to be more like you. Help me to learn from my mistakes in my past. Help me to grow past this. I understand there will be consequences for my actions. I just ask that you will help me to endure the fire of this forging and emerge a brand new person whose desire is set on following you. His tears continued to cascade to the ground. He managed to find the strength to mutter a few words. Can't you hear me?
Be still.
Daniel sobbed harder. Will I ever hear Arnion's voice again?
Be still.
Daniel thought he heard something, but he wasn't sure. Instead of continuing to speak in his mind, he quieted his thoughts.
Be still, my child.
The voice of Arnion knocked him flat to the ground. Neither male or female, the voice sounded like a chorus of a multitude of voices speaking all at once in unity. He had forgotten the power and the love behind Arnion's voice.
I have missed you, Daniel, and I forgive you. And since I have forgiven you, forgive yourself as your mother so wisely told you. I never left you, nor will I ever leave you. Even though you thought you left me, I was always there. You just couldn't hear me because you blocked me out. Daniel, I love you. And I know you feel like a failure. I don't see you as a failure. I see you as my child, one who grows and learns. You will not be perfect in everything you do. I don't expect that of you. You shouldn't expect it of yourself either. Find your refuge in me alone. I will protect you. I will fight for you. I am close to those who are broken-hearted. I will heal those who are crushed. Don't be afraid of the road ahead, for I am with you. I will strengthen and help you. When you feel like you will drown in your sorrows, I will keep your head above water. When you are faced with the fiery trials of temptation, I will save you from being burned. When you are thirsty in the desert of oppression, I will sustain you, as long as you trust in me.
A sense of relief flowed through Daniel's entire body. He felt renewed and refreshed. It was as if 1 second his body was caked in hardened mud, and then next, it was washed away. He lifted himself up off the ground and resumed his kneeling position. Thank you, Arnion. Thank you. What will you have me do to make this right?
Go to your hub profile and start recording.
Thank you for listening to my book, Palmara, A Dying Breed. I'd love to hear your feedback. What do you like? What do you think needs some work? What are you most interested to see happen? What questions do you have? At the end of every chapter, I'll have these slides that show how time works in Palmara, plus the different sayings and terms to help you engage with the world. As well, the characters who appear in each chapter will be found in the video description. Be sure to check it out. And if you're enjoying this and enjoy other stories, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You can always join the Discord with the link in the description as well. Until next time, Hine Akmatov, which means how pleasant it is for humanity to dwell in harmony with one another. Take care.